Also, before the March break, we looked at how to graph a quadratic relation. So there are 4 key items that we're looking for in order to be able to graph it. We want the x-intercept, the y-intercept, the x-intercept, the axis of symmetry, and the vertex. So those are our key points. And I mean, I know it says graph, but we are actually just sketching it because it's just a rough sketch given these different features. So I'm going to start off by looking for the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept goes along the y-axis. We know that along the y-axis, the x value is 0. So I'm going to let x equal 0, and I'm going to make that substitution into my equation. So instead of instead of x, I'm going to write 0. Two times 0 minus 5, a little tight here. Then I'm going to simplify, so 2 times 0 is 0. And 0 minus 8 is negative 8. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. I'm going to put that all into the calculator. 8 times 5 is 40, times 0.5 is 20. Negative times negative is going to give me positive. All of these steps you really don't need. This is just me to show you in detail what I'm doing, but if you can do it in fewer steps, that's okay. So I know my y-intercept is 20. So that means along the y-axis, it's going to cross it at 20. Then for my x-intercept, and remember our x-intercept, we also call them the zeros. And we call them zeros because along this line, the y value is 0. So I'm going to, here I made the substitution x equals 0. Here I'm going to make the substitution y equals 0. So I'm going to copy this equation that I have initially, but instead of y, I'm going to write 0. So this tells me I am multiplying 3 numbers together and my product is 0, which means that the only way you can get 0 is if one of the numbers that you're multiplying is 0. So that means the only way I can multiply, this isn't going to give me 0, but one of these must. So that means x minus 8 is equal to 0, or 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. And then I can solve for x. So x is equal to, I bring this over to the other side, 8. Or x is equal to, I bring this over to the other side. Divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 5 over 2. Or you can write it as a decimal, 2.5. And it's easier to write it as a decimal because as a decimal, I can graph it more easily. I'm just going to approximate here. So 2.5, if the middle is 3, it would be slightly over that way. And x is equal to 8 would be my other x-intercept. My axis of symmetry is going to be the line that is in between my x-intercepts. So to find the line in between, I'm going to add my x-intercepts together and then divide by 2. So that gives me 10.5 divided by 2 is equal to 5.25. Okay, and that means it's an entire line going along 5.25, somewhere here-ish. And that's why I was saying earlier it's just a rough sketch, especially if your scale is like this. I was trying to get it all to fit. This is my axis of symmetry. My parabola is going to be a curve, and it's going to cross the axis of symmetry at the vertex, which means my vertex is going to have an x value of 5.25. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute 5.25 into that original equation at the top. Oops. Okay. BEDMAS, I'm going to do multiplication first. Inside those brackets. Okay. And my calculator. I get 2 point. So I'm going to multiply it all together, 5.5 times 2.75 times 0.5, and I get 7.6. So that means my vertex is at 5.25, comma 7.6. That these were supposed to be, this is supposed to be negative, so this is negative, so this is negative. Just adjust that in your notes, and that's the coordinate that I'm going to draw over here. Somewhere over here. Now that I have all of my key points, I'm going to connect it into a U shape that's symmetrical like that. And that's my parabola.